Okay, welcome back. This is episode 15 of Johnny the Greek's Free Real Estate. This week I am joined with JJ Wenner at JJ Wenner, two ends of Ride or Die Dynasty podcast and Getting Defensive. He's the host on the Thursday night edition, I believe. JJ, how's it going?
Man, it is going fantastic. I'm having a glorious day over here. How about you?
Good, man. Good. We're almost at hump day, so we're getting there. Yeah, it's been a good week. So let me just get this out of the way real quick. As you all know, it's episode 15 now, a free fire zone. We might say something ridiculous at some point. Keep that in mind. Might not be safe for work. If there are kids in the room, consider headphones. With that being said, JJ, yeah, man, what's happening? I know I just talked to you. We did the barbecue podcast a couple weeks ago, but what have you been up to this off season?
Honestly, since I spoke to you, we've had our puppy. My son's dog is staying with us. So we're in the third week of that. And we've just been spending a lot of time with the dog. Lots of hikes in the woods with the dog, playing in water. Good stuff.
Nice. What kind of dog?
Golden Retriever.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. It's a great breed right there.
It really is. It's a fantastic dog. I was never a dog person. We never had dogs growing up, and this little girl stole my heart. So I'm happy that she got to spend 3 weeks with us.
That's awesome, man. Good stuff. And then, yep, beyond that, I know on the content side of things, you've been doing Getting Defensive, and then the Writer Dynasty podcast. When do you guys do that? Is that just a strictly in season thing, or all year round? Do you guys ever take breaks? What's that look like?
Sure, we go all year round. Generally January, we take a couple weeks off just to get a breath. But yeah, we go live on Wednesdays on YouTube. It's also published on Spotify. It's me, Dave Heilman's the current co-host. We're bringing on two guys because Dave has left. He's got promoted. So we're getting Justin and my buddy Rob Mongol are going to be coming on. So it's pretty good. It's a deep dive. I think this is our fourth year.
Nice.
So it's been a minute.
That's awesome, man. That actually, I'm gonna, just kind of take us off kilter here for a second because this brings up something I was thinking about last week. So with last year, I'm just gonna dive us right in with a 68% injury rate. We've got COVID. We've got all kinds of shenanigans. Games on Tuesdays, games on Wednesdays. How has that affected you as a dynasty lover and someone that does dynasty content? Because for me, it's kind of soured me to dynasty a little bit, to be honest with you. It's like you spend all this capital on guys, you don't get them. You lose 3/4 of them every season to an ACL, an Achilles, 2 weeks to COVID, whatever. I found myself liking redraft a little bit more. What would you say to something like that? Because this is your thing. This is your cup of tea.
Yeah, I started out as a redraft guy. I loved redraft. I excelled in redraft. But when I get my hands on something, I don't like giving it up. So, and I think what happened is over the years, I would draft these great teams. And then the very next year, I had to throw them all away and start from scratch. And then the sleepers that I had found in the draft, everybody else was able to then pick up. So even all the stuff with COVID, guys tearing ACLs, going out for the year, I'd much rather have the control over my roster from year to year. I don't know. I kind of make it like a family. Like we all have little conversations, me and the players. We rev each other up. I don't know. You just sort of fall in love with players, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man. And don't get me wrong, like more than half my leagues are dynasty. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I still enjoy it. It's just I don't know the frustration factor the last couple of years. Like I was looking at yearly injury rates and like it has spiked in the last 5 years. I don't know what's going on, but it's just unreal to what it used to be. It's crazy.
Yeah, I find, and this isn't saying I'm not making a big statement about players being softer than they were. I think we're a lot more responsive to players and their injury needs and understanding that, if a guy tears a ligament and you keep running him out there, he's not going to play much longer. So I just think, much like the NBA, I think the NBA is all the way to one side. You just see players who know that their body is their business. And if they're not 100%, a lot of them are just going to say, you know what? I'm going to sit out this game.
Yeah, that's true, man. The long gone are the days of like, Ronnie Lott cutting off a part of his finger to get back out there. Like it's a different era.
Right. He would have been out for 6 weeks. They would have had reconstructive surgery. They would have fixed his, yeah. But listen, I'm not judging these players, and I just want to make that clear. If I got hit once in a football game, I'd be dead. So let them do what they need to do to survive and bring me the entertainment that I ask for from them.
No doubt, dude. Yeah, I'd be a dead man too. So, okay, we're gonna get into Jets here in a little bit, but I just wanted to get your take on the Super Bowl. This was obviously a while ago now, but did you enjoy the game? Who did you want to win? Thoughts on the Super Bowl?
I loved the game. I was really cheering for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I had a bunch of shares of Chase, so I was excited. I always liked the underdog. And for some reason, as much as I love Matt Stafford and players on that team, I don't like the coach that much. So, yeah, I was definitely pulling for Cincinnati. But, hey, it was a good game. So I was, there was an era of Super Bowls where they sucked.
Oh, yeah.
And
all the Patriots ones, yeah.
And even before that, you think like the San Francisco ones and like all the ones the Bills were in, which were just blowouts. And there's nothing worse than a crappy Super Bowl to end the season. Yeah. So I'll take any good game I can get.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It was a rare, Super Bowl for a few reasons. Good game, new teams we haven't seen in a while. Not like a really hated team on either side. So
right.
A lot of people were neutral on it. And that was just kind of a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it was like refreshing.
Definitely. Awesome, man. All right. Well, let's rewind a little bit. So how did you get into watching football? Was this a family thing or how'd you pick it up?
Well, we weren't allowed to watch sports in my house growing up. My mother had a somewhat interesting personality. So if you stayed in one place too long, you were either going to get yelled at or put to work. So needless to say, nobody sat around. The first game I can really remember, I was watching the 1988 Super Bowl. And I remember I was cheering for the Bengals, and then Tim Krumrie broke his leg in 37 spots. Ooh. And I just remember them playing that over and over and being so horrified and just wanting the Bengals to win because I always liked the underdogs. They didn't, but that's the first real game I can remember.
That's awesome, man. So it wasn't as much a family thing, just a kind of natural magnetism to it.
Yeah, and then I ended up getting into why I'm a Jets fan. I went to Hofstra. When I was at Hofstra, the Jets still practiced there. So I got to campus a few weeks early because I was a freshman. At that same time, the Jets were there practicing, which was pretty awesome. And then Wayne Corbett went to school with me. So then he got drafted. Keyshawn got drafted. And I was like, this is the best team in the world. And I fell in love with the Jets.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, we'll definitely get into the Jets here in a second. So no, things are looking up, I think. We'll get into it. So I think most of us know this, but to anyone that's just meeting you the first time on this podcast, what do you do for a living outside of your content here?
I teach. I'm a teacher. I'm a second career teacher. So I actually did commercial and industrial sales for 20 years. Then I went back to school, got my teaching cert, and I've been teaching for 5 years. This is going to be my fifth year. Oh, so yeah, I teach 8th grade, middle school. I taught English for the first 4 years, and this year they're switching me to history. So
yeah, I remember we talked about that a little bit, and I think it was one of Getting Defensives. That's a hell of a switch right there.
It is. I mean, I love history. I've always liked history. So, and I figure all I need to do is know this much more than the students, and I'm fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're not really teaching, Verdun or something in
No,
eighth grade history, right?
no, there's no macroeconomics. We're not talking about like the capitalist structure of countries. So we're pretty good. Just early American history.
Nice, nice. Good stuff, man. And you just mentioned you're a Jets fan. So what do you think the outlook is for this season? And I gotta before we get there, thoughts on the Zach Wilson shenanigans, because we gotta talk about that.
Um, so I try not to dive too deep into these things. So from what I heard, his ex-girlfriend made a statement that he had had relations with his mother's best friend.
Right.
I, I can't be mad. I'm interested to see how old he was when that happened,
Right.
because that could go from scandalous to criminal pretty quick.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Um, but I mean, hey, as long as they're consenting adults,
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
yeah, go for it.
Absolutely. It's like a New York quarterback tradition. Like and it was funny because with Eli, there wasn't much to go on for a long time, but
Nothing at all. Yeah.
Broadway Joe, Sanchez when he was there, like the
Sanchez, what he didn't he get mono from like a 17-year-old?
yeah, yep,
Like there
yep.
was that whole nonsense with him.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's a grand tradition.
It is. It is. It's like a Jets tradition, and it's funny because I read all those stories yesterday on like those New York papers, like the Daily whatever Post or whatever, the scandal New York papers. That yeah,
Yeah,
but
they love a good splashy headline.
oh, no doubt, no
So
doubt.
he
Yeah,
definitely delivered that for them
yeah. It's a tough place to play quarterback, but if you do it well, they're gonna love you. And
forever.
the love of New York City, there's nothing like it. So yeah. So yeah, how do you think the season's going to go for them? They've added a ton of talent. Like maybe not this year, but shortly they're going to be really good, I think.
If it wasn't that the division, I think, has
Mm.
steadily all gotten better,
Mhm.
like I'd be like more excited about the Jets. I think the Jets have everything they need right now to compete for for whatever they have to do to win their division. Um, but the quarterback, I have to see a lot more out of Zach Wilson this year. Um, I'm very nervous about what I saw last year. He did look better towards the end of the year, but he was the one quarterback I did not want them to draft. Um, and they ended up taking him. So he's now my quarterback. I think they're going to come in fourth this year in the division. I see all the other teams finishing ahead, but I think next year is when we start making the move one way
Yeah.
or another.
Yeah, a lot of good young talent. So I mean, only way they can go is up, no doubt.
Yeah. You got to love what they built around him. I mean, we have a bunch of wide receivers. They brought in some solid tight ends. I mean, I know they ain't bringing the top notch, but they brought in a couple guys who can catch and move the chains. And then their running back situation is great, and I will always love a good running game.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And you guys made out like bandits on some of those deals too. Selling Jamal Adams for a King's ransom, and boy, that deal looks better and better every season.
Besides that one, you got to look what we got for Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
And the most impressive trade that Joe Douglas has pulled off was that he got a fourth last year for Chris Herndon, a fourth round pick for a guy who's not in the league.
yeah.
So I really, after a few years of bad GMs, I'm excited for Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh to come in there as the coach and just really ramp up that team.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yep, that they've brought in some really good guys across the board. That is for sure. So okay, so you mentioned you're a teacher these days, middle school. I gotta assume you got a funny story, either from your teaching career or from your own high school or college days. Anything you want to share with the audience here?
Well, it was funny when you wrote down what the gave me an idea of what we were going to talk about. You said your favorite short story. Well, you can't ask an English teacher for their favorite short story and not expect me to give you a short story. So,
Fire
The
away.
Lottery by Shirley Jackson is one of my favorite short stories. Have you ever
Okay,
read The Lottery?
I have not. What's it about?
It is a fantastic, nice little story about it opens on a bucolic afternoon in a beautiful town center, and the townspeople are all gathering together, and they do this whole lottery where they're picking. And at the end, it turns out, spoiler alert, that this is the person who wins gets stoned to death, and it's
Oh,
their annual sacrifice, like their harvest sacrifice. So the kids love this story because they're bored throughout the whole thing until we get to the end, and then they're like, "Wait, what?"
dude.
So it's a pretty good story. It's a pretty
That
good story.
that is wild. That reminds you see that Midsummer movie?
Yes.
Yeah, that it's
Yes.
kind of like that a little bit.
It is very much like that. Shirley Jackson also wrote like The Haunting of Hill House, which was made into a series. She's a pretty good gothic horror person. So of course, if we're talking gothic horror, Edgar Allan Poe is my favorite. So
Hey, I like the spin on that answer to that question. That is the first time we've gotten an answer like that. I'm taking it. That's beautiful.
yes.
We're going with it. So okay, so you mentioned the golden retriever. Any other family that I don't know. I haven't found a good way to phrase this question. It says to shout out like, "Hey, I got 2 kids. Hey," like I got to fix that.
It's hard. Yes, I have a family. Shockingly, my wife and I actually are about to celebrate. No, hope she doesn't listen. We just celebrated our 18th anniversary. And yeah, we have 2 kids. We have twins. They are going to be 26 in 7 days. So boy, girl, both live up in the Boston area. Very proud, super smart. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Twins. That is statistically not likely. So what was that like when you found out that was happening?
Well, full clarity, I'm their stepfather. So I met their mom when they were 3, came into their lives around 4 or 5, made sure things were going to last before I wanted to meet kids. But
Yeah.
so I got to miss all the nightmares. Like I didn't have to do any like diaper changing or any of that stuff. I came in when they're walking, they could talk. I highly recommend it. Listen, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, let someone else do the hard stuff.
Now, do you have kids?
No.
No. Why did you laugh?
I just think that's a good idea. I like that.
Well, you should definitely try it if you decide to have kids.
There you go. Right. Just disappear for a few years, come back. I like that. So how did you get into fantasy? So were you a paper and pen guy, or when did you start?
I was not. I started probably like mid 2000s, like 2006, I think was my first draft. I was trying to think back because my first pick was LT. I had the number 2 pick.
It's a great first pick. Yeah.
And that was the year he set the record for touchdowns. And I was like, wow, this is really easy. All you have to do is pick the guy who scores 31 touchdowns. And it's simple. So yeah, that was my first league. It was a 10-guy redraft league over on CBS Sportsline.
Oh, okay.
So it was a lot of fun. That league stayed together for about 10 years. Long since disbanded, but that was a fun time.
Nice. And then was it like a slow progression into IDP, or like once you got a taste, was it like just give me more?
Well, I always like to make the analogy that fantasy football is like sex.
Yep.
Like some people get into really weird stuff sexually, and whenever you hear about these people, like they never just try a little bit. There's always like, oof, way too much going on for that person, right? Like we've all met those people probably when we were in college, and we were just like, no, that's too much for me. That's my opinion of fantasy football. So I started with redraft. A buddy came along and was like, hey, have you ever tried Dynasty? I was like, no, what's that? So tried a little bit, and they're like, what about IDP? I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Now Superflex. I'm like, yeah. And now, unless it's a degenerate type level of a league,
yep,
it doesn't do it for me.
I know. I know, and that's a great way of putting it. And it's funny. I was in a DM with some of the IDP show guys the other day, and I was talking about that. I was saying like, you know, if it's not weird, and it's like IDP is like the butt stuff of fantasy football. It really is. You
Yeah.
know, because a lot of people are like, ugh, what is wrong with you? I'm not playing no IDP, and it's like
Yeah.
you got to be out of your mind a little bit.
And if we're being honest and continuing with the metaphor, if you do it wrong,
It goes
you're
bad.
never going to do it again.
Right, right. That's true.
All right.
That's
So you
true.
just go slow. That's all I'm saying.
That's it. Ease into it. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Love that. So, what about besides fantasy? What are you doing for other? You play any other fantasy sports? What are your other hobbies? What do you like to do when you're not working and doing content?
Uh, Nothing. Um, I watch TV with my wife. I do a lot at school. So with my own kids, I coached for many years. I coached basketball for like 8 or 9 years. I coached volleyball for 3 years. I was super involved with my kids. When they left, that's sort of when I went back to teaching. Um, and now I just try to go to like as many of my new kids, their events. So I'll stay after for any basketball and softball and football. I try to see all that stuff. I work in an inner city school, so there's not always the parental support that the kids need.
Right.
So I try to show up to all that stuff and be supportive.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's what it's all about, right? Like you got to enjoy those things while they're here because they're gone quick and that's it.
They
Yeah.
really are. They really are. What do you do? What do you do besides IDP?
Oh man, I got a lot of coals in the fire. D&D golf.
You're a D&D guy. My son
Oh,
plays D&D.
oh, it's great. You got to try it. That was a Zoom thing or a pandemic thing we got into. That's been excellent. Volunteering, a lot of stuff. It's a lot of coals in the fire. This is not a big piece of the pie for me, to be
Okay.
honest for you. But that's all right. You know, variety is the spice of life, as they say.
It is. And I do play my son got me into games. Like
Nice.
he went to Rochester with a bunch of, and if any of them listen, I mean this very nicely, nerdy friends. Like they're all doctors and engineers now and like
Yeah.
astrophysicists. And they would play these like super complex board games. Um, and D&D. I got into the board games with them. So like I do enjoy a good complex board game.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's some great ones out there, but yeah, you're talking, 2, 3, 4 hours and rule book the size of the Bible. But
Yes,
that can be good stuff.
it can be. It can be when you're playing with the right crew.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. So so 06 ish, you got into things. IDP a couple of years after that, or somewhere around there. Who were some of your favorite early guys when you were doing your IDP drafts in the beginning?
Well, my first IDP league was in 2015, and I wanted Eric Kendricks more than anything in my
Mm,
draft.
mm-hmm.
I didn't get him. I ended up trading for him. Uh, and Daniil Hunter, I
Oh
got like at
yeah.
the back end of my rookie draft that year. And, of course, because I drafted him, I wouldn't cut him. He just sat on my team because I will not cut draft picks. It's hurtful to them. I'm trying to build up their morale, right? Like you don't
Yep.
want to cut them.
Mm-mm.
And oh man, he played. I got some good years out of Daniil.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see more coming up.
Oh, no doubt, man. If he can stay healthy this year, with Zedarius on the other side,
Yeah.
Jesus H Christ, that's going to be something else. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Minnesota defense kind of going back to what it was. Like when people feared playing them.
yeah, yeah. That this could be the year, no doubt. Okay, those are some good answers. How'd you get into doing this stuff? How'd you get into the podcasting and the hosting and everything else you got going on in this space?
It was probably before the pandemic, probably like 4 years ago. I saw somebody post something on Twitter. It was Dynasty ER, and they were looking for writers. So there was an application. I was like, I might as well. Why not? I know how to write.
Yeah,
I'm smart. I know how to write stuff. So I signed up and they brought me on, and IDP was like the opening there. So I started writing a weekly IDP column, where I took a look at all the snap counts. I had a big Google spreadsheet with graphs and charts, and would track every player's, like, cut and paste every week all the snap counts
Ooh.
from PFR, because I didn't know any other way to find them.
Right.
And then I wrote a weekly column. Then they sort of fell apart after about 7 weeks. Everybody disappeared. So there were 3 of us left, my buddy Mike, Ryan, and myself. And we decided it was just the 3 of us in Slack. So we're like, let's start our own thing. So we launched Rider Dynasty. We did a podcast for 2 years. We launched a website. It was tough. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
It's a lot of work trying to run an organization. And I'm not the best leader in that way. So, it slowly started to dwindle down. Couldn't get anybody to write articles. And then I fell in with Gary Van Dyke. He asked me to come on his pod, which I just think was a ploy to get me on so I would become the host. So I started hosting that last off season. And then Jeff brought me over with Gridiron, and I brought over what was left of Rider Dynasty. Now we're part of the Gridiron Ratings family.
That's awesome, man. You make a good point there too. Like a lot of people, especially like newer writers and podcasters, don't know what the back end looks like, and the back end is like 98%. Like it really is. Managing all the personalities and trying to get content out of them, and people petering out 3 weeks into the season after promising you for 6 months that they're giving you this article every week no matter what, and then it's like, oh, my wife doesn't like it, I'm done. Like, all kinds of crap, right? Like it is a huge undertaking. It really is.
And I don't think people understand what it takes to even edit and post articles. There is we had a writer who, God love him, I won't name him, they've gone on to different places, who for an entire year I would rewrite their entire article for them because it was so bad. And I would just sit there and I would be like, okay, like sitting there with Grammarly and like just looking up stats because the stats were all wrong. Fixed everything. And then I guess my articles were good because he got hired by 2 places.
Oh, man.
But, my whole thing, and I always said this with Rider Dynasty, is I always wanted my guys to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. If you came on, I was hoping somebody would pay you, because finding a paying gig anywhere in the fantasy industry is next to impossible.
Yeah, that's true. It really doesn't exist in most places. And yeah, that's awesome, man. You definitely landed in a great spot too. Like the Gridiron guys are great. Really enjoy working with them. So all ended up pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I know a couple of them got poached off by a larger gambling website, but I don't know. How do you feel about gambling? Are you a gambler?
Oh yeah, they just legalized it in Connecticut last year before football season, and I stopped playing DFS completely because it's a freaking waste of time now. You're talking thousands of people. You got to beat like 98% of them to win $3 more than you put in. Or I could, pick the 3 teams, parlay them that I feel like are going to win this week, and bam, you just made hundreds of bucks right there. It's insanely easy. Plus, FanDuel does such a good job with the promos. Like, I almost never place a straight bet. It's a bet, and then if I lose it, they'll give me a free bet because it was a promo, and I've got 2 chances instead of 1. And I think it's great, but you can fall into that trap pretty easy though. So I limit myself like crazy. That's for sure. Do you guys have it where you are?
Yeah, I believe so. I used to. I had a bit of a gambling issue. I had a buddy. Actually, I can remember the game. My buddy was ended up being a bookie. He had a big gambling issue. And it was the week that Tom Brady became the starter because Mo Lewis broke Drew Bledsoe's rib.
Right.
We were at a bar, and that weekend, my buddy made like $3,700 in bets.
Whoa.
And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I was like, can I bet? He's like, sure. So we finished out that season, and I probably lost about like $8,000.
Ooh. Yep.
And I was like, I'm never doing this again. And fantasy is the closest I get. Just because I love gambling so much. Like, I mean, I'll go to a casino. I mean, I haven't been in a casino in a lot of years, but I have to set a strict budget because
that's the thing, man, because it's just like any other drug. It has that effect. The endorphins of you being down and them catching a last second touchdown and now you're winning. Oh boy, that's irreplaceable from a brain chemistry standpoint, and they know that.
Oh, they absolutely do. Absolutely. I think they get more money from their losers than they do their winners. Like, and I don't mean like literally making money, but people get more addicted the more they lose.
Right. You start chasing it. Yeah.
You're just chasing. You're chasing that taste.
Yeah. That's it, man. Yeah, no. And I've, anyone that knows me knows I'm in recovery. So I have to be super strict about it. Like,
I bet.
Just a little bit out of each paycheck. And when it's gone, it's gone. And I'll see it again in a week and a half or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's like anything in life. You have to be able to set a limit.
Yep.
And if you know that you can't adhere to a limit, then you just can't do it.
Right.
Right. But it's all about knowing who you are.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah.
But that comes with age, right? Like the older you get, the more you kind of figure out who you actually are. And sometimes it's scary, but it's a little bit freeing too as you get older.
Yeah, absolutely.
As an old guy, I can say that.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Okay, so you can give me whatever you want here. What have you been taking for sleepers? I mean, you're a dynasty guy. I'm sure you got some deep ones. Offense, IDP. The ones you want to give away. I know you don't want to give away everything. So.
Man, I'll give anything away. I mean, guys who I really like. I always fall in love with rookies. So I like Rachaad White this year. I'm excited to see what he does in Tampa. Thinking of other guys, I love what KJ Osborne showed last year.
Yes.
Same.
And Thielen is made of glass sometimes, like lately. Yeah.
And if they're going to a more pass happy, which is what everybody's saying they're going to do, including the players, that means they need a third wide receiver. And I know KJ Osborne, man, he showed up last year. So that's somebody you can get for practically free.
Right.
Looking at Cleveland, I loved DPJ last year. I was hoping that he would be great for this year. I knew like last year might not be the best, but now I'm a little bit nervous because they don't have a QB.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? I mean, I guess theoretically we're going to find out by the 25th. And I kept seeing 6 games today, so it still might be worth grabbing them. But yeah, eventually I think you're right because Cooper will get double teamed and who else are they going to throw to?
Yeah, I just don't know if DPJ's game is enough to warrant a large number of targets. Right. So he might be more of a best ball guy. Like he might have those splash games like an MVS. But yeah, those are my guys who I'm trying to get wherever I can at the back end of a roster. Like deep super flex. I'm kind of interested to see what Jared Goff does this year.
Yeah.
I think he might be sneaky good.
Oh yeah.
Just because they've spent so much money on that offensive line,
right,
and the pass catching weapons around him.
So. Yeah. Amon St. Ra came out of, he looks real good. And then, if
they got Jameson,
right.
DJ Chark.
Yeah. If Hawkinson could stay healthy and, with that line, he's going to have all day.
And then you have Swift and Jamal Adams. Not Jamal Adams, Jamal Williams.
Right. And Swift can catch like a 3-yard out pass and house it. And then you get a 60-yard touchdown off a 3-yard pass. Like that's beautiful. Yeah.
And I love that coach. I don't know if I love the coach. I love what the coach has done to that locker room.
Yep.
um, because it takes a lot to turn around a losing franchise just in the attitude,
Right.
right? Because in the last minutes of the game, you don't want a team that's like, we're going to lose because we've always lost and we're always going to. And those teams fought last year, and I
Yeah.
respect teams that fight to the end. So I'm interested to see what they do this year.
Yeah, definitely, man. They are not an easy out anymore. That's for sure. All righty, that is good stuff. If you had a Mount Rushmore of IDP greats, so you get 4 guys to put on this Mount Rushmore, can be any positions you want, any guys you want, any timeline you want. So early, late, now, whatever. You tell me who's on it.
All right, I can do this. So I looked at this from a true position standpoint. So I came up with an IDL, an edge, a linebacker, and a safety, and not a cornerback because I don't draft cornerbacks. So interior defensive line, Aaron Donald.
Yep.
I mean, a man amongst boys. I've never seen somebody with faster hands, more violent hands, and not violent in a bad way, but just that dude is so fast with his hands, and it's beautiful to watch what he does to get away from offensive linemen. It is beautiful. It's artistry. So I love him. Edge, Bruce Smith.
Ooh.
I mean, if you can look back at Bruce Smith, I mean, he had 13 seasons of 10 or more sacks, right?
Right.
But besides that, he was putting up 75 plus tackles in eight different seasons.
Ooh.
So, like, you're not only getting those great sack numbers, but he put up the tackles. He had seasons with over 100 tackles.
Jesus.
So, got to go there. Linebacker. Now, this is pure. This is just IDP. This isn't like my favorite football players.
Yeah.
Zach Thomas. So Zach Thomas in his 12 years in Miami averaged 10 tackles a game, 9.8 tackles a game, every game for 12 years.
He was one of my absolute favorite early IDP linebackers. Him or London Fletcher. I had to have one of those two every season. And Zach Thomas had the neck pad, and he was just a short little guy that just came like a rocket ship and lit people up. It was beautiful.
I forgot Fletcher, though. Fletcher was so good, and he was undrafted.
Yeah, but his career is insane. Like you said, a decade of 100+ tackle seasons just over and over and over again. Just like those guys were so great. Love Zach Thomas. It's a great pick.
And safety, somebody who I loved in my earlier years and just happened to look up his numbers to see Antoine Bethea.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if anybody talks about him, but he had 8 seasons of 100 tackles or more
as a safety, right?
As a safety.
Yep.
That he has the most seasons of 100 tackles since 1990 of any player, any safety. So I'm going with Antoine Bethea.
I love that, and he did it on multiple teams too. He traveled and
laid into his career like Zach Thomas. Like these guys were old and still putting up numbers.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it just reminds me that the game has changed a little bit because it was so easy back in the day easier to find those guys that just never left the field. And, 100 tackle seasons were not as hard to find as they are now.
I mean, look at offense. I mean, like we talk about running backs now hitting the wall. They've had too many carries. They're washed up. Are you kidding me? Curtis Martin had his best years in his 30s.
Right.
I mean, and guys like, he's dead at 27. It's like, I don't know. I think NFL teams are leaving a lot of meat on the bone, but it was nice when you could draft a guy and know he was going to be the bell cow running back for 10 years on a team.
Yeah.
And now, like, they get hurt one year and they're gone the next.
I know, man. It's crazy. Game has changed so much. It is wild. Those are great answers, though. I love that. That's a good Mount Rushmore. Let's get some stupid early predictions in. So if you had to go out on a limb and guess who the inside linebacker, IDP inside linebacker 1 is going to be at the end of this year, who you got?
Roquan.
Love it. Me too.
I love Roquan. I listen. I lived in Chicago for 2 years. that is a middle linebacker town. They love their middle linebackers. And Roquan just follows in that long line of great middle linebackers there. And I don't know, he's everything you want in a middle linebacker. Like he's fast, he's smart, he's tough. I don't know. I love Roquan Smith. So
Yep. No argument there. And I feel like he's the safest pick for, inside linebacker one. Just the best situation of anyone.
I agree.
How about outside linebacker? So pass rush. We'll use I don't know. MFL screwed this freaking question up for me so much. So we'll say traditional outside linebackers, the Shaq Barretts and TJ Watts of the world.
Yeah, if I'm going just like a pure edge, right, I'm sticking with TJ Watt. I mean, he's missed 2 games last year and he was still the most productive edge. Game script might change on offense, but that doesn't really affect defense. He seems to be getting better every year. Eventually that has to stop, but unless it's a cliff, I would take 80% of TJ Watt to still come in first among edges.
Yep, that's been the answer so far. How about defensive end? So we'll say the Garretts and Bosas of the world. Even Joey is a defensive end because that's a ridiculous thing that they made change.
Let's see, defensive end, Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, Garrett is he's what you want. He has just the size, the attitude. Like you need a little bit of that get off me dog attitude. You know what I mean? Like that's an old ICP song. Did you ever listen to ICP?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Insane Clown. Absolutely. Yeah.
They had a song, Get Off Me Dog, that I remember back from my college days. And that's what I always think of, like with somebody like Myles Garrett, Calais Campbell, like just those big ornery who always just seem to have a snarl on their face. Get off me. Like, I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, no argument there. Garrett is great. And then defensive tackle, I think we know this one.
You don't. Jeffrey Simmons.
Oh, okay. So you're playing the dynasty game here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, I think he finished 3rd last year in most of my leagues. So it's not that big of a jump. I didn't want to just say Aaron Donald. But yeah, I mean, he's getting better every year, Simmons, and he's only 24.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking forward to see what he can do. I don't think he's going to beat out Donald, but he's definitely the guy for me in Dynasty.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And for a while there, it looked like it was going to be Quinnen, but the Jets do so much rotating. It's like Quinnen tops out 60-something% snaps, and that's not great. Yeah, so I'm with you.
It's not great at all. I mean, even a guy like Cam Hayward might finish in the top 2. I mean, there's a guy who can put up 70 tackles from a defensive tackle position. I love Cam Hayward.
Yeah, Hayward is great. Absolutely. How about safety? Who you got at safety?
I think Jeremy Chin. They really didn't do a lot to that linebacker core. They added Littleton maybe. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of linebackers sucking up tackles in front of him. So I think he's going to have the opportunity to stay on and maybe play the nickelbacker role. But I don't see him leaving the field, and he's everything we hoped he would be in the draft and more.
Yep, I'm with you. That's been a popular answer here. I got no problem with that. And last but not least, corner.
Well, I learned from my friend and former co-host Trip that you want to pick the corners who are closest to the ball. You always want to go with a slot corner. And who better than Kenny Moore? I mean, Kenny Moore, he has an infectious attitude. He has a great attitude. I don't know if you got to watch Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks last year on HBO.
Yeah, a little bit. I do remember him sticking out quite a bit. Yeah.
I just love that kid. And he can cover. He can stop the run. He's not afraid to pass, to tackle a running back. And he can rush the passer. So there's not a lot of guys who can do all of those things. So I like Kenny Moore.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's Kenny Moore has been the most popular answer here. And that is, no argument here. Problem is price. Anyone that knows anything about IDP, if they're going to spend capital on corner, it's going to be Kenny Moore probably. So,
which is why I don't have any Kenny Moore.
Yep, same. Same.
because
Yeah,
I do not draft corners ever.
yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe once in all of my rookie drafts have I drafted a corner.
Yep. You can usually just grab someone off waivers that's playing the Chiefs inside that week, and
Yep.
you're fine.
And especially with all the injuries, like
Right.
guys
Right.
just go away and then you have to pick up the next guy up.
Yep.
So yeah.
Definitely. And then if you had to pick like a crazy early Super Bowl, who you got playing, who you got winning?
Who do I have playing in the Super Bowl? Um, I don't know who's going to win this year. I think the Bengals do not make it back. I don't think the Rams make it back. I think Buffalo finally makes it. I think Buffalo finally gets over the top, and I think they win it this year, unfortunately. I mean, no offense, Bills fans. I know there's a lot of you. I'm a Jets fan, so that's unfortunate for me. On the NFC side, man, the NFC is crazy.
Brady, maybe, right? Last season.
I guess why
Could be.
not? But
Yeah.
there's probably about 5 different teams who it could be, right? We look at Brady, we look at the Rams, we look at who else? The Cowboys could reasonably make it with that offense.
I,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I'm not an optimist Cowboys fan.
No.
No, God, no. Realist
But do
Cowboys
you
fan.
think you're harder on the Cowboys than you should be?
Probably, but realistically, our shot was last year, and we missed. Now we're down Cooper and Randy Gregory. We're not better. We're worse. So, yeah.
Do you think Dorrance Armstrong steps up?
Oh yeah. He's been a good sleeper pick. A lot of guys have had on this interview series, and I don't disagree. I think he's going to play quite a bit and be pretty good this year. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, so NFC we'll see, and then Bills get through. Yep, I mean they are the favorites right now in Vegas betting. So a lot of people have that thought. I cannot disagree. Let's shift gears a little bit. So you mentioned that you watch some TV with the wife. What are you watching for TV, and what are some of your favorite movies?
Ooh, well, right now we're going to finish up Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul, I think, has to be a top 5 series as far as writing, directing, and acting. I loved Breaking Bad, but I think this actually takes it to the next level. It is quite possibly the perfect show. It is just so well done. But I would be remiss not to mention The Sopranos. I love The Sopranos. It was appointment television before we had a DVR. We were there every Sunday, 9 o'clock. I mean, Gandolfini, Falco, and Bracco, like those 3 acting with each other. And of course, R.I.P. Paulie Walnuts.
Right,
Tony
right.
Sirico passed away this week. That was such a great show. I loved The Sopranos. What do you watch?
Oh yeah, dude, anything HBO. So HBO does not make bad TV. They're incapable of doing it. Even like random stuff. Like I was bored this, a few weeks ago and I was like Mayor of Easttown. I wonder what this is. Hit play and then like fast forward 2 days I've gone through the whole series and I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for season 2 of Mayor of Easttown."
I
And
heard that was great.
Oh, it was incredible about a small town detective in Pennsylvania and a drug overdose and just small town living and HBO does it well. It's all believable. They don't make bad TV. If they put something out, I'm gonna watch it. So anything HBO.
Yeah. Did you see Peacemaker this year?
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, the John Cena.
Oh yeah. Sorry, my bad. Yes, that was
That
excellent.
was fantastic.
Yes.
That was probably the most fun I've had watching a series in a long time.
Yeah. And DC needed that too.
They really
So
did. They really
yeah,
did.
so that was beautiful. That was awesome. And then movies, like all-time movies. What do you got on your list?
I mean, I love movies. I watch movies all the time. I mean, you got to go. If we're talking about people who just passed away, James Caan passed away. So you got to talk about him in Thief. You got to talk about him, of course, Godfather.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, he is the Godfather, and that's who I always saw him as. We just lost Ray Liotta. You talk about Goodfellas, Copland. I mean, these movies where Ray Liotta just he chewed every word, right? Like man, I miss those kinds of movies. But I also love El Canto, Encanto, which was just on Disney Plus. Watched it like 5 times with my students. Great movie. Like I don't know, I just love movies of all kinds. What kind of movies do you fall into?
Yeah, man. You know, if it's good, if it gives you an emotional kind of response, that's what you're looking for, right? Like
Yeah.
if it makes you think or it makes you feel, it's done a good job. I just saw the Minions movie, the new Minions movie.
How was it?
Oh, it was awesome. Movie of the year so far as I'm concerned.
Now,
Spider-Man No Way Home can kiss my ass. The Minions is where it's at. Like it was.
now, were there any gentle minions there? Were there any teen kids dressed
No,
up?
I was disappointed. I really wanted some gentle minions to be there, but there were not. But it was great. I mean, how can you not like the minions? They're just hilarious.
I mean, I've never seen a Minion movie.
Oh man,
I never have. I missed a lot because my kids are old.
right, right.
So like I'll watch newer movies because of my students, but there's that bunch in the middle, like Cars, I
Yep.
missed, The Incredibles, I missed, like that whole era that I just missed all of those kids' movies.
Oh man,
I'll go
Minions
back.
is where it Minions. Like if you're in a bad mood, Minions will cheer you right up. It's great.
Well, then
Yeah.
I definitely have to check that one out.
All right. So, how about if you won the lotto, what would you do tomorrow? Are you gonna still teach part time? Are you done? Like, what would happen with that?
How much are we talking, a million or
Oh,
200 million?
Powerball, the big guy.
200. Yeah, 200 I quit. 200 I quit. What would I do? I would create a foundation to try to figure out what the best way to educate kids is. Um, Teaching is really easy. Not a lot of teachers say that. The teaching part is easy. All you have to do is know the subject and know how to present it. But teaching shouldn't be against a child's will.
Right. Right.
And that's what makes teaching hard, is that it's like full contact teaching, right? Like they're trying to evade learning
Right.
and you have to like trick them into learning. So I would try to set up a foundation to figure out how to make the kids buy into their own education.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good call, man. We're gonna need
And
that.
lots of fantasy stuff. I would do lots of fantasy stuff.
Yeah,
And
oh,
I'd probably
okay.
bet on football. I'd
Yeah.
probably start betting again because I'd have some ducats.
I love that. Okay, so here's a good one. So you're a history teacher now. If you could choose one event in history to time travel back to and see, what would it be and why?
Well, I'm going to go back to my English roots. I would go and watch Hamlet being performed at the Globe Theater for the first time.
Ooh.
I want to see what it looked like, right? Because the audiences were raucous, like the audiences were crazy. It's not like everybody thinks Shakespeare is highbrow when most of Shakespeare are boob and dick jokes. You just don't realize it because the wording is so weird.
Right. Right.
I would love just to see like Shakespeare done in the Globe.
Oh man, that's a great answer. That is a well thought out answer right there. I like that. Okay, are you an aliens guy or a no aliens guy?
Oh, there's definitely aliens.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, the universe is infinite.
Did you see the picture today from the Webb telescope?
No, I saw it popped up on Twitter, but I was kind of preparing for this and another pod later, and I try to turn off Twitter so I don't, because Twitter is just a time drain for me. I just
Oh
keep
yeah.
looking over at it every 2 seconds. What was in the photo?
So it was the first color photo from the Webb telescope, and it showed something like 1,000 galaxies that we didn't know about, and I don't know, like a stellar cliff or something they were talking about, like just billions and billions of stars out there, and each one's got a handful of planets, and it's just like to think that we're the only life in the universe is just so fucking wild. Like how
Well,
anyone could believe that is beyond me.
well, humans tend to believe a lot of crazy things.
Yeah.
Uh, we're very, I don't know if it's because of our self-preservation we're very ethnocentric, right? Like the only view that matters is the view we see. Um, so yeah, but if you step back and just think about it mathematically, like
Yeah.
I don't know, there's got to be something else out there.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. We are not that important in the grand scheme of things at all.
No, we're blips. And I
Right.
think the more like and I have to say something stupid like having a dog and just realizing the complex set of emotions. I mean, you have cats. Like they're emotional creatures. They
Yeah.
mourn, they feel happiness, they feel sadness. And we're on a planet where we don't see that in anything that's living besides us. Right? Like we only think humans do. And unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of humans who don't think other types of humans have those emotions.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I maybe it's my old age, but I'm getting like hippy dippy. Like I don't even kill bugs that much anymore because I don't know what they're going through. Right? Like they're just trying to find some food. They're just trying to find a home. And now I'm gonna crush them in a napkin. Come on, I'll take them outside. I'm good.
Oh man. Yeah. Jesus. I wish I could see. I mean, I've gotten a lot better in my recovery with my empathy towards other people, places, things, creatures, whatever. But bugs, I just can't do it. Maybe one day. Maybe one
Listen,
day.
I'm not 100% on the bugs. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, like there's still bugs that run in my house, and I live in an old farmhouse. Our house was built
Oh,
in like
okay.
the 1840s. So like we have ladybugs in the house. And I
Ooh.
hate ladybugs. Everybody loves ladybugs. Yeah. Until you have them in your house and then they're misery. So there are some insects who I don't.
I got one for you. This is going off brand here real quick. So
Oh,
you
okay.
you teach the youth of today.
I do.
What are Do you feel optimistic about the future? What are your thoughts on the future, this generation coming up?
Um, you know, I think we say the same things about the next generation that every generation before us did. When I want to see what's wrong with the youth of today, I look at their parents. We live in a society where everybody wants to fight everybody all the time.
Yep.
And there's no respect for just decorum, and if all you see are people acting out in inappropriate ways, as a child, you're going to act out in inappropriate ways. So I don't know, man. I feel bad for them. I mean, they're smart, they're empathetic, they're a lot more understanding. I mean, when I went to school, people would like make fun of gay kids. The F word was used all the time in the halls. I mean, the coaches, the teachers would use it. Like there was no thought to that word. And now I teach kids, and I have kids who are trans, who are non-binary. Nobody says anything to them. Nobody picks on
Wow.
them.
Wow.
Like race isn't a huge issue.
Right.
It's just, is it an issue? Yeah, sometimes, but for the most part, nobody cares. So I actually feel a little bit more optimistic about these kids coming up, as long as we don't put them in such a terrible situation economically that they have no chance to have any peace in their life.
Yeah.
And with like, I look at my own kids and they can't buy a house. They'll never be able to afford a house. And my kids make more than me, and they'll never be able to afford a house at the rate they're going.
Yeah.
I don't know what that does to you as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I hear you, man. It's wild. I may have mentioned this down here or somewhere before, but one of my first clients, when I was doing direct care for people in recovery, was this 18-year-old kid, and I was just like, he's telling me how anxious and depressed he is, and not looking forward to the future, and he's eating benzos like candy, and I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? You're a good-looking 18-year-old dude. Like you're popular at school. You're slaying chicks. Like what do you have to be upset and anxious about? He's like, well, let me tell you, and he lays out all the shit you just said, and then their look on their outlook on the future, and how social media, like they don't have a choice, like it has to be part of their life, and
Yep.
they can get bullied through that or not be popular enough through that, and it's a whole other factor I didn't even consider. And he just, when he gets done laying it out, I'm like, damn man, I didn't have to deal with any of that. Like, I get it now. Okay.
Well, it's funny. Like whenever I ask the kids, like we would always do journal questions. I'd be like, "What era would you want to grow up in?" And they all say mine. They're always like the '80s, early '90s. So I was
Right.
born. I don't know how old you are. I'm 47. So like I started kindergarten in 1980. So that was my era. Graduated high school in '93. It was pretty nice growing up then.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great, but you could graduate, get a job, buy a house. The world didn't look like it was going to be lit aflame. And if shit at school wasn't going well, you could go home and nobody could reach you.
Right.
You couldn't be touched in your house, except if you had a weird parents, but whatever. I digress. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like they can't escape.
Right.
They can't. And my wife and I were just talking about this. There was an incident in our area where a bunch of people rode their dirt bikes and their ATVs on the highway and caused this huge issue. And we've been having a major issue. I think they've been having it across the country. And she's like, I don't know what's wrong with people today. And I'm like, are they doing anything different than what we did?
Nope.
I mean, first of all, kids aren't allowed to get into fights anymore. If you get caught in a fight, you go to jail. Right? Like, that's it. Like, I did so much bad stuff growing up.
Oh yeah.
So much bad stuff.
Yep.
Like, I lived in the country and they were building houses everywhere. And we would just take sheets of plywood. We would take tools and we would use them to build our own clubhouses in the woods. Like, but now, like, holy crap. Like, I could have, yeah, it was bad.
Right. It's a different world, man. Everyone's got a freaking, surveillance device in their pocket. They can nail you at any point. Every building's got security. They can trace your IP address. Like you can't get away with anything these days.
No, and kids, I mean, like around here right now, they're closing all the pools because they can't find lifeguards. I'm like, well, what are these kids supposed to do? Like to join a league, like a sports league, is like $150 plus mandatory fundraising.
Yep.
Like the kids I teach are poor. Like I teach in a Title I school. Like, I don't know. If you don't give a kid anything to do and then tell them that the stuff that they used to be able to do, they can't, they're going to find something.
Yep.
And it's probably not going to be something that you approve of. So you got to figure it out, adults.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. No, I like it. I like that. That was a good side thought right there. How about, so what's your favorite? It could be in person. It could be on TV. It could be Jets. It could be anything. Favorite football memory?
I know mine. And it was the game, the 2011 AFC divisional playoffs, Jets versus Patriots.
When they beat the piss out of them, the can't wait game.
To all the non-believers, anybody can be beat. Oh, I randomly watched that interview with Sal Powell just to hear Bart Scott, and it fires me up every time.
Yep.
Every time. With number 3 defense. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. Yeah, that was probably the best. And my son was old enough to watch the game with me, and we were so happy.
Oh yeah, man. I have a similar favorite football memory, and it's Plaxico catching that touchdown in the 07 Super Bowl, because it meant the Patriots were not going to be the greatest team ever assembled, and I wouldn't have to hear that shit the rest of my life.
Yeah. Listen, anything to beat the Patriots.
Yeah. Thank God that's over. I don't think we all stop and think about that enough, but that long national nightmare is done with. Finally.
Oh, trust me, I think. And plus, so like I said, both of my kids live in Boston because my wife is from Boston. So all of her family are Patriots fans. So every holiday, think about that. For the last 18 years, every holiday is me getting razzed about the Jets.
That's brutal, man.
Game. That was a good game.
I love that. That's a great answer. How about favorite non-football memory?
I saw this question. I don't know. Most people would say like the birth of their kids. I wasn't there for the birth of the kids. Um, my wedding day, weddings are all right. I mean,
Yeah.
weddings are overrated. It's a lot of stress. So I don't really know what my favorite memory is. I really don't. That's
I,
sad. It made me sad when you asked this question,
no.
and I could not think of an answer. What's your favorite memory?
No, so I did my own riff on all these questions last week as a filler episode because it was July 4th week and
Okay.
no one's gonna come on during the holidays. So I was like, I'll just answer all these. I had the same answer as you. I don't have a single most favorite memory. There's nothing that sticks out that much. There are a lot of little good ones, and I'll take that over one great one, and the rest of it is okay or shit. Like I'm okay with a bunch of little good ones, and that's what I got.
Yeah. So I've been taking, while we've had the dog this week, we started a little thing where we go to the park and they have this nice wooded trail with all these streams. And we've been having the best time. So today she actually walked without a leash in it and she was
Nice.
playing in the streams and it was very relaxing. Like that was fun.
Yeah, that's
That was a good
perfect,
day.
man.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Right. It doesn't have to be something earth-shattering. It could just be, you know, that's what we're trying to live for, right? Like just that little bit of peace of mind.
Yep. Those
Yeah,
little moments.
that's it. Good stuff. Okay, so what is something hard you've had to overcome and what did you learn from it?
So, not to get too deep, I experienced some abuse as a child, which really fucked me up. Um, like I've gone through tons of therapy. Been on every type of medication for it just to try to get my head right. And I think the thing that I've learned is that you need to forgive yourself. And I haven't quite gotten there to that point yet. Because kids blame themselves for the abuse they take.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really realize that unless you've gone through the abuse, that you always think, if only I was better, right? If only I had listened. It was my fault. I wasn't listening. Like, I should have just gone somewhere else. And you're always making these excuses, and you find that you've lived a life filled with excuses. And you get to be in your 40s, and you're like, I'm tired of excuses. So, you know, I went back to be a teacher so that I could kind of create a safe space for kids,
Yeah.
like where they could just come in and be themselves and be able to fuck up. And I say that to kids I don't say that to kids, but I tell kids, listen, I don't carry a grudge. If you come in and you have a bad day because something's going on elsewhere, I know you're not mad at me. I know you're not. So, but feel free to come in. And if you need to, you can yell at me. You can take it out on me, right? Because we just have to learn how to identify and move on from our emotions. So that's what I learned. I still haven't fixed myself, but I'm hoping that I can help some kid who's having trouble get through a rough moment.
That's it, man. That's all we can do with stuff like that is just try and pass it on and help someone else with it. I can 1,000% identify with that. I had trouble forgiving myself for all the terrible shit I did in active addiction for a long time. Lying, cheating, stealing. You do whatever the fuck it takes if you're addicted to opiates.
Yep.
Like straight up, whatever it takes. I remember photoshopping fucking bank statements. Okay, so I carried a ton of guilt for that for a long time, and just like you, went to a lot of therapy. Still go to therapy because
Yep.
everyone should go to therapy. Like if you don't,
Agreed.
I feel bad for you because you got nowhere to get that shit off your chest. I do, so I live a much happier life. And it's just a process, man. You can get there, and the fact you're paying it forward, that's the important part. That's really good stuff right there.
Well, even just having a platform and somebody like you to talk to about what goes on. A lot of people share on Twitter a lot of their mental health struggles. I don't, only because I don't know. It's always embarrassed me. It is kind of embarrassing. And I don't think a lot of people talk about what they went through. And I think it's part of the issue is that there's so much child abuse in this country.
Yeah.
and no
Yeah.
one wants to acknowledge it.
Right, right. And anyone that tells you that they haven't gone through something is full of shit. Like there are no perfect people out there. Like
Yep,
everyone's got something, some kind of skeleton in their closet. So, the sooner we face it, the better.
absolutely.
All right, good answer there. Okay, this is a weird one. I don't have my own answer to this, but do you have a catchphrase or something you would say if you were about to go out in a blaze of glory?
So, like a blaze of glory, like I'm in a gunfight or jumping out of a blowing up building,
Sure.
it
Yeah.
would probably be, I think I just shit my pants.
Oh, I love that.
I'm not a super like I am not a brave person. Like I'm protective. Like I'll fight for my kids, my family, but like I'm not a guy who's just gonna start a fight or so it'd probably just be like, yeah, here I go. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I like that. That's a good answer. Okay, so last couple segments here. We'll move on to hot water, and we'll start with the platform wars. So, what
Hmm.
is your favorite platform and why for fantasy football? Because we
Uh,
all love to argue about that shit.
We do. MFL. MFL hands down. It has the most. You can do the most with the scoring. You can do true position. I love the fact that you can pay people to make great designs. You can do themed leagues. I hate the cost. I hate the fact that the cost keeps going up every year. But I'm a true blue MFL ride or die kind of guy.
Yep, I'm with you, man. No argument there.
And I don't think it's difficult to use.
No,
Everybody who says it is, I just think they're lazy. And I apologize if that offends anybody, but it's literally all there in the menus. You
right.
just have to find it.
Right, and it's software. It's a website. It's not even software. It's a website for Christ's sakes. How many times have you seen a website for the first time in your life and you're like, "Oh, well, I got to play around with this for a few minutes to figure it out." That's it.
And all the data you can use. Like for somebody who does content, I always pull stats and things from MFL because you can copy and paste from their website. And you can't do that from Sleeper.
Right.
So if I want to figure out, like, I do a lot of statistical things to try to figure out my drafting strategy based upon last year's scoring. And I have to input the settings into MFL into a free league just to pull the scores so then I can do like it's like 5 extra steps dealing with Sleeper. So sorry, Sleeper.
Yeah, no.
I
I'm with
am in a bunch of Sleeper leagues too.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. As much as I bash on Sleeper, I've got like 20 something Sleeper leagues I'm in also. I think I was telling Adam this. I've got like 4 or 5 different fantasy platforms installed on my phone right now. Like it's not great.
yeah, so which ones do you have? Because I have ESPN. I'm in one league on there. I'm in one on Yahoo, which is like the father son league that's
Yeah.
been going for like 12 years. Um, I had a Fan Tracks last year, an MFL, like a bunch of MFLs, and a bunch of sleepers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So a ton of Yahoo, love Yahoo, and I've been there since '04, so I can't leave. My profile's there, and it's loaded with stuff. MFL for sure, Sleeper for sure. I was in Fantrax last year. I think it's really just those 3 right now, plus all the DFS stuff. And
How
then
many leagues are you in?
oh Jesus, probably like 30 something, probably like 20 dynasty, another like 12 redraft, and then a ton of best balls. A ton of best balls. Yeah.
Do you do like the underdog best balls?
No, I should, because I used to do the draft app ones. You remember that thing back in the day?
I do remember the draft. I remember the MFL 10s.
Right, right.
And then
Okay.
there were the MFL 25s and the like you could do all those. Those were fun.
Yeah, yeah, right. So maybe I'll get back into Underdog. When I tried them originally, they didn't have a slow clock, and I was like, "This isn't going to work for me. I'm not going to sit here. Like, I got shit to do." If they fix that, maybe I'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I at one point I was up to like almost 30 leagues. Then I slowly cut back and I'm trying to do more best ball leagues.
Yep.
Like the leagues, any league I start, especially in MFL, I try to do dynasty best ball because That's the easiest. You draft your team. That's my favorite part is drafting. I'm not good at picking week to week, but I'm good at finding players and building a good roster. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah, best ball's been great because it scratches that itch and you're not stuck forever. So
Agree.
okay, and your typical startup. So for you, that's super flex, full IDP, true position, the whole shebang. What's your typical approach to drafting in regards to IDP? Are you a defensive line first guy, linebacker first guy? What's your normal take?
In most drafts, I try to be as fluid as possible. I don't go in with any strong feelings, but I'm going to go edge first, right, in true position, because there's not a lot of really effective edges. It's one of the shallower. Even more shallow, though, is the interior defensive line, especially if the scoring is right. So in the leagues I run, I have position-specific scoring, and you want one of those top interior guys. Linebackers usually is third in the list. Safeties fall fourth.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you can reach for like Derwin James, but I'd rather wait and get like 3 of the safety 2 guys.
Yeah.
Because nobody repeats as safety. Like very few repeat from year to year. And then corners I don't draft. So
yep. That is the most common answer I've gotten. Exactly the way you just said it right there. Yep. Good stuff. And thoughts on fantasy Twitter? What's your take on the wonderful community we find ourselves in?
I find what's most interesting to me is that 2 people can both be content creators, but depending on who they follow on Twitter, have a completely different existence. And you might never even run into people because you don't follow them, they don't follow you, and you're not in their circle, which is interesting. So I'm a bit of an introvert. It's hard to tell when I'm on a podcast. I try to be as extroverty as possible. But outside of this, maybe because of the abuse, I always just assume nobody cares. There's nothing I'm going to say that anybody needs to hear. So I don't know. I don't communicate a lot on Twitter. I read, I peer. I'm trying to start to build relationships now, though. Like there's some good people who I've met, mostly through the expo, who I've tried to keep up those relationships with from last year. But I don't think fantasy Twitter equals content success. People seem to put everything on Twitter, hoping that somehow I posted on Twitter, ... I get 100 views. Nothing. I've never gotten a view or a listen from Twitter.
Right. It's all from Google. Yeah.
It's all from Google. It's all from word of mouth.
SEO. Yeah. And if you don't have that down, you got nothing.
So I just find that I do so much on Twitter that it doesn't really benefit me. So I don't know why I'm doing it. But, it is necessary. Like I tried really hard to get my follower count up, right? Something that's completely vain. But I will say, once my follower count got up, Gary contacted me to come on his pod and then asked me to be a host. I don't know if all those things connected, but they did follow sequentially.
Yep.
So, because I think when people do click on your profile and they're like, oh, he has 3,000 followers, maybe he does have something good to say. But if you click on somebody and they have like 100, you're going to be like, oh, nobody knows who this guy is. Right. But I think that's all perception, right?
Yep.
You don't do a lot on Twitter, do you?
No, I don't engagement farm. I only speak when spoken to.
Yes. And I definitely don't engagement farm. I'm not giving you my my Mount Rushmore of linebackers. I'm not telling you what ketchup shouldn't go on. I don't like the show me 5 pictures and pick 3.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's just so much of that nonsense. And good, hey, listen, I think it's nonsense, but Some people don't. Some people just have fun doing that stuff.
Hey,
So
yeah. Yep.
good for them.
Yep. More power to you. It's not going to mean page views, but more power to you.
More power to you.
Are you going to the expo this
I
year?
am. I
Good
am.
stuff. Well, Nate'll say hi. I just got back from Ohio. I'm not going back anytime
Not going
soon.
back to Ohio. Yeah, last year I was lucky enough to Brian Drake had posted on Twitter that they needed an auctioneer for the King's Classic.
Ooh.
And because I always say yes, I was like, oh, sure, I'll do it. And I mean, you talk about like, I walked into that room and listen, I don't know who anybody is. But then as they started saying like their names and I was like calling on them to bid, I was like, oh shit. Like, oh, okay. Like like all of a sudden I was like, I didn't realize who, like, you know what I mean? Like you do get a little bit starstruck. Like Ryan McDowell was drafting. Like Gary Davenport. I was like, you're fucking Gary Davenport, man. Like you're like literally one of the OGs of fantasy football in general.
Right.
Like Scott
Right.
Pianowski, Matt Donnelly. Like, I don't know. It was pretty cool. It was a fun experience. I hope I can get to do it again. I volunteered again, but I don't
Yeah,
know. Nobody's
you'd
really
make.
mentioned.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get it. I
I'm
could
hoping.
see you as an auctioneer for sure.
It's fun. It was
Yeah.
fun. It was a good time. I had a great time at the expo. And I'll say the one thing about this community, man, everybody was so nice. Like there was no like, do you know who I am? There was one guy like that. There was
Ooh,
one guy.
really?
I'm
I
not going to say who it was.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have
There
you.
was one guy though who thought he was better than everybody. And it's not even a huge name.
Wow.
And he cut in line in front of me for a drink
Wow.
and just like looked at me like, oh, I don't even know you.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'll remember. I remember. But everybody else was amazing. Like everybody was amazing. That was a
Yeah.
fun time.
Yeah, good. Well, I hope you have a good time this year, man. Yeah.
Sure I will.
Alrighty, we'll wrap it up with these. So, what do you
Oh,
got going on this season? What are you working on during the season? Any upcoming projects? What do you got cooking?
no real big projects. Like I say, I do the Rider Dynasty podcast. We're finishing up our off-season content, ready to go full force into the regular season. I'm still doing the Getting Defensive with Gary on Thursdays. Still trying to figure out how that's going to be for this year. But yeah, I'm going to be hosting those two pods, and that's about it. Maybe writing an article or two if I find some time.
Nice. That sounds good, man. And then anything you want to talk about, anything you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Um, Listen, if you get a chance, go onto YouTube, look up Riders Dynasty, um, watch a couple videos, let me know what you think. We're giving away a DeAndre Swift jersey. All you have to do is
Ooh.
leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It's autographed, not the podcast, but the jersey. So just go leave us a review. Once we hit 100 reviews, we're going to pick one review and give them the jersey. So that's the big thing we're doing right now. The
That is
Ride or Dynasty.
a great prize.
I like it. I'm not allowed to win it though, so
Oh man, that's nice though. If your burner wins though, then no one has to know, right?
no one has to know.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. Okay, and then you can be found at Twitter at JJ Wenner,
At JJ Winner.
WENNER. Awesome. Let me get you out of here with this. Do you think it's possible that most road rage is because someone has to take a dump?
You know, the most threw me off. I don't think it's most. I think most people are just assholes. And they feel very safe in a car and not outside of it. But man, there are times when I drive really aggressively when I have to, like, when I'm coming home from school. Because, like, the secret about teachers, they don't let us pee. We never can pee during the day.
Really?
Well, we don't get breaks. So if you teach 3 classes in a row, well, I'm the only adult in the room. I can't leave.
Right.
So so when a kid's come in at 8, I don't get to pee this year until 11.
Ooh.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So I do drive more aggressively when I do have to poop, which could lead to road rage.
That's my thesis. That's what I'm driving at.
Fantastic thesis.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, JJ. He's at JJ Wenner on Twitter. Much appreciated, my friend. This has been an excellent episode.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. This was a blast.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.